Hello, hello. Welcome to Healthy Perspectives, a podcast that takes on current cultural and social issues through a clinical lens. Hello, hello. All right. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate your time. And today's tip of the day is it's not as prevalent as you think. What is it? Whatever it is, it's probably not as prevalent as you think. Well, the alternate option was it's more prevalent than you think. And there's a reason why this is the topic of the day. You know, I decided to go, it's not as prevalent as you think because there are people out there creating noise. And so much noise that you are dysfunctional. Yep, I'm talking to you. I'm blaming you and me and everybody else who falls for this crap. So hang in there with me. I will make my point. All right. That is your tip of the day. And today's focus will be on noise. So why are we going to focus on noise? Well, let me take you back a tiny bit. In order to do this well, for those of you who are following along, I'm going to go ahead and I am going to start. I'm going to show you something, if I can get enough things off of my screen to actually get it going. All right. So this is a little, for those of you who are following along on video, you're going to be able to see this. There is a couple of what look like speakers, fancy speakers, because in the world of communication, there are at minimum, two entities or parties or people in order for communication to exist. But hang in there, I'll get to the noise, all right? I'm going to go through this part really fast. There's what we call a sender, and there is a receiver. On one side, you have a sender. On the other side, you have a receiver. Pretty simple stuff, right? Basic. What goes across from one to the other, from the sender to the receiver, is the message. Okay. Then they can switch roles, and the receiver can become a sender and the sender can become a receiver. This is communication 101, folks. For those of you following along, you get to see this. I got a little chart that I'm doing. Okay. Then we enter the noise. And there are two types of noise. There is the noise from the external, and then there is the noise from the internal. The internal is the history and bias of the sender or receiver. The external is whatever is going on in your environment. And there is where we want to land. The noise. It's super intense, both internally and externally in our world right now. So I am going to very quickly hit this noise part really hard, because at the basic level, it could be a sound machine. It could be the ambulance or the fire truck. Right? You've got your normal everyday car traffic. See, when you hear the ambulance or the fire truck, that noise gets louder and more intense by design so that you pay attention to it. Well, now we get to turn to our world. I'm going to go ahead, for those of you who are following along on video, that's gone because I just wanted you to see it. Now that that's in your brain, I want to talk to you about the external noise that is creating internal noise, because there is external noise that when we hear it, it can turn us to an internal noise redundancy piece where we ruminate on the noise. So let me rewind back. 2024, July the 13th. For those of you who don't know what that is, that was the day that Donald Trump, who became the president, was running for office. And a guy laid on a roof, sat on a roof, whatever on a roof, and he took 8 shots at Donald Trump. Now, Some of you think that, yay, that's great. It's too bad they didn't hit him. I am not that, I don't lack that much humanity. So I'm not going to go there, other than I know some of you are there. And it's disgusting to be there because, if somebody took a shot at you, I'd be pretty irritated with that too. But I get that some of you are there. So this part's going to be hard for you to hear. In March of 2026, we have had a resurgence of conspiracies about that day because of Donald Trump's reaction. How he first ducks because he gets hit in the ear. Well, then where's the scar? All this stuff is what people say. Well, where's the scar? How come he didn't get hit? What was that guy doing on the roof anyway? But here's the thing. There were 8 shots taken and somebody did lose their life, which means this situation was very real. Now, some of you think that it was staged by Donald Trump and his team. Some of you think it was an assassination attempt. But going around on social media is this concept of it was fake. That went around just the other day. I watched it explode. I'm here today not to talk about Donald Trump, but to talk about the noise. We have these really interesting features on social media, and that's on all of them, where we get to share information. And we get to retweet or redistribute or whatever the different platforms call them on their platform. And what happens, listen to this is the noise. What happens is one person says something that could be absolutely off the freaking wall, like that wasn't an assassination attempt. That was just staged. It was just basically a movie. And then another person goes, yeah, I like that story. That's a cool story. And they retweet it and they like it. Or they share it with a friend. And then somebody else says, oh yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. And pretty soon you have all of this external noise. For those of you who saw the little visual, the noise falls in between people trying to communicate effectively a message, an important message. And what happens is we get our messages hijacked. In other words, reasonableness goes out the door and chaos is all we pay attention to because it's noise and it's loud. It's like a fire truck. Hey, everybody, stop doing what you're doing and take a look out the window and see, oh, it is a fire truck. Yeah, we all knew that. But how many of you stop your day to move to a different place in the room or on the field or wherever you're at to see if it's a fire truck, even though you know the sound of that noise? Now, if you're on the roads, I totally understand why you look around and try to figure it out. Also, I actually like to pray when that happens. I hear a fire truck or an ambulance, and I just pray real quick. I just stop what I'm doing and I pray real quick because somebody's having a much worse day than me. But what happens if all we do is pay attention to the noise? We start to believe things that aren't necessarily real. Here, I'll paint it for you. Somebody on the West Coast, somebody on the East Coast, and somebody somewhere in the middle have a really, really rough day, and they go and shoot somebody. That's 3 people, one day. Oh my gosh, gun violence is going crazy all over the country. That's what you'll hear. And then what happens? These 3 stories get put out there into the world and then put out there more. and then put out there more until pretty soon, even though you're seeing the same three stories, and this is an anomaly in the big picture, you start to believe it. You start to believe that, wow, gun violence is on the rise. And oh my gosh, we live in such an unsafe country. When in reality, they're just drawing your attention to the noise. And the result, you start to believe things that aren't real. I'll give you another example besides the Donald Trump thing. You ready? Hang on. This one's going to be wild. There was a person. Name is, I believe, I don't have I don't know the switched of the names or whatever this is. So like, I'm not, there's no attempt in the world for me to be rude here. However, there is this person, Nicole Alexandra Contreras Suarez, a 31-year-old transgender Colombian immigrant. Try to say that 5 times fast. 31-year-old transgender Colombian immigrant who entered the United States in 2023 and then proceeded in February of 2025 to rape a 14-year-old boy. I probably should have given you a disclaimer just in case you're a kid. Sorry, the world is rough. That was not intended to freak you out, but it happened. Factually, that happened. How do we know? Because Nicole Alexandra Contreras Suarez pled guilty. Now, some people want you to think that immigrants are all dangerous. So they boost this. They boost this in every platform so that all you hear is, oh my gosh, more immigrants raping our children. When in reality, now don't get me wrong, I am not diminishing the reality of this situation. This situation is heinous, unacceptable, not okay. And is it happening everywhere all the time? No. But there's a group of people out there who want you to believe that immigrants are dangerous, that transgender are dangerous. And some of them are. Just like, factually, citizens are dangerous sometimes. Heterosexual citizens can even be dangerous. Now, that is not to minimize this story whatsoever. It's simply to tell you, you can't assume it's as rampant and prevalent as you think. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But let's flip the narrative because we're talking about noise. The absence of a message is also information. Sometimes things get quieted down in an area so that you just can't find the information. For instance, I remember thinking a few years back, why do people still assume that you have to have insurance to be in compliance with the law? Wait, some of you are probably going, what? You don't? Back in 2013, a law was put in place with the Affordable Care Act, which has proven to be not affordable. By the way, a little sidebar for you. But then I believe it was around 2016 or somewhere thereabouts, 2016, 2018, something in that zone. It became very clear that that was an unconstitutional tax. So they changed something. They changed the fee to $0. If you don't have insurance, you will pay a penalty of $0 and 0 cents. And it has been in place for years. But because of the silence, the message never being told, we are still distracted by the noise. And what's the noise? The noise is every year you get an email or a text or whatever saying, hey, the open market, it's coming open. If you want to make a change, now's the time to do it. And everybody goes, oh gosh, I gotta go do that. And it's false. It's false. Do you want to know the noise that is being, or as I was, the message that is being silenced about the Nicole person, the transgender Colombian immigrant? Do you want to know the message that is being silenced? They will be released from jail as an illegal, I believe illegal. Nope, I take that. Yep, it says illegal immigrant. They came here in 2023. They will be released from jail on April 27th of 2026 after serving a total of 6 months. The silent part, folks, let me be abundantly clear. The silent part is the part about 6 months. They do not want that information to be a big news headline. Here's why. Because our judicial system is not doing their job much of the time. What? So a 31-year-old can rape a 14-year-old and they could be here illegally. Then 6 months later, they can be released back into the world, but not just into the world, not sent home to their home country. Nope. They get released right back into the streets of the United States of America. Folks, there's noise. And then there's messages. It's kind of like the difference between giving you facts and giving you evidence. Evidence is the message. Facts could be part of the message, or it could be noise. And you, my friend, have got to understand this. I am doing this not for my own good, but for yours. There are things in this world they don't want you to hear. And there are things that they use to distract you. And with that noise comes ignorance and naivete. If you get distracted by all the noise and you can't filter through it to hear what the actual message is, you are going to be part of the problem. And my hope is that this helps you break through that just a little bit better so that you don't create that internal noise that says, yeah, that Trump guy probably set that all up and was just hoping that somehow, some way, he'd get shot in the ear and not in the brain or the face. That's just absurd, folks. It is absolutely absurd. But hey, there are people who believe it because they're listening to the noise, and then their internal noise is getting too loud. Folks, I am hoping that this will help you. I am hoping you will be able to cut through the noise, both your internal noise and the external noise, just a little bit better. And if it does that, this was a victory and worth my time. Please like, subscribe, share, do all those things, and we'll see you next time. Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening. We appreciate our audience a lot, so we give you some simple ways to track us down. Please like, subscribe, and follow all the podcasts on different platforms, but you can also email us at healthyperspectives@protonmail.com, or you can check out our website at healthy-perspectives.com/podcast. It's a backward slash. So if you want to go to our landing page, if you go to healthy-perspectives.com, you'll still find us. You just got to click on the podcast button. Thank you so much.